So in today's video we're going to take a look at painting flexible plastics. So these bumpers and the spoiler bits that I'm doing here are off the MR2 Turbo that we just finished the repaint on. Now front and rear bumpers and the spoilers on these are renowned for being stupidly flexible, and because of that the paint can crack, cause issues down the line, and stuff like the spoiler and stuff, they flex too much and it causes issues just because they're way too flexible. So doing these in a conventional base and clear, you could get away with it, but what we're using here is we're using the exact same colour tint on the bumpers and the spoiler. The front bumper I've just fitted the splitter to, so I've got to do the front bumper on Monday morning, but I'll do that in exactly the same way. Now what I'm going to be doing is adding flex additive into this. So instead of doing this in base and clear, I'm going to be doing these in gloss and adding a coat of clear coat over the top to finish. Now I'm doing that so I can add the flex additive into every single stage. So I've put a little bit of flex additive into the primer, I've put a little bit of flex additive into this gloss, and then I'm using a coat of clear just to seal in the gloss, the same as we would with base coat, and add that little bit of extra protection and just to give me that little bit extra to polish. So the colour and the top finish of these will be exactly the same as the rest of the car. It'll be just as durable and just as hard wearing, but it will have that tiny bit of extra flex, which should help with the lifetime on these bumpers. And if they do get flexed coming on or off at any point, then we shouldn't have any issues as far as the paint cracking or, you know, things over flexing the tolerances that they're made to be. So I think off the top of my head, the flex additive that I had in was some of the MIPA flex additive. You just basically follow the TDS sheet for whichever flex additive that you get and add it into all your 2K products on the job. So if you know that you've got parts like this that are extremely flexible, add the flex additive into your primer before you do anything. Obviously, say on the bumpers, if you're repairing really flexible bumpers, try and use some of the proper plastic filler rather than the bumper filler, rather than sort of your standard filler. And it's only on sort of really flexible ones like this that I personally think you need that. These, the MX-5s, a lot of the older Fords have all got this same kind of, it's almost like a foam based plastic. I'm not sure what the plastic is, so don't quote me on that because I'm not a chemist or anything, but they are extremely awkward to repair if they're cracked, and they really do over flex. So to make sure that any flexing in these doesn't affect the paint down the line, I'm just using that little bit of added flex additive. So for the gloss work to start off with, I'm using the Ws400 Series 2. I've got the 1.3 HD setup in this. I'm running this at around about 1.8 to 2 bar, full fan and full fluid. And as you can see, no issues with laydown, speed. The fan on this thing, the same as I've said in previous videos, is top notch now compared to the old WS. Still love the old WS. Obviously you can dial in the fan settings with the old WS to make it a phenomenal gun, but the bonus with this, I think, is that if you started painting with this and you felt it was a bit slow, and after using this now, I don't think this is slow. Now I've used it with clear and I've used it with my normal Kapci gloss that we normally use. I think speed wise this is absolutely spot on. Finish wise, lay down, everything seems really nice. Transfer's good. Same with the old WS, you get a little bit more overspray than you do with some other guns out there, but I've got to be honest with you, we're not a massive high production shop. I'm looking on most jobs that we do on a day-to-day basis for that flatter finish anyway, so I'm quite happy to lose a couple of mil of paint to a little bit of overspray. It's not going to cost me the earth at the end of the year. If I went to a really sort of, what's the best way of putting it? If I went to, I don't know, a gun that's going to save me a lot of paint, I've got to be honest, with the kind of work that we do and the amount of numbers we turn over the year, I'm not going to see much of a financial difference. However, you can really see the difference with this, with the finish and the ease of the laydown as well. Now, the beauty of this is, say you've come from something, I don't know, like a SATA, for instance, or any other gun that really seems to pump the paint out and you think is a really fast gun. The beauty with this WS now is, because this does run perfectly on a full fan, if you wanted to speed this gun up a little bit, you could just turn the fan down a tiny little bit and that would speed it up. Personally, I think full fan, full fluid, this is a nice speed. It's not too fast that you've got no control, but it's not too slow so you feel like you're lagging. I mean, you can see there, I am not exactly going slow over the bumper. It's hitting really nice and really wet. No issues whatsoever. Full fan, full fluid, happy days for me. I've been enjoying using this. I'm taking both of these down today, as it will be, to a place down in Stafford that I'm going to help do a beetle. So I'm going to be taking these down there because these will be absolutely ideal for a job like that. Nice and controlled, nice even lay down. It's just what I'm looking for. But like I say, if you did want to speed things up, you could just turn that fan a little bit. I have tried it to test it. Obviously the fan stays even, it does. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no mega real issue there whatsoever. Now, the way that I've gone about these, obviously doing these in gloss first, so I can put that flex additive into these, is to give these 2 coats of gloss. Now, a question that I've been asked previously when I'm doing clear over gloss is, do I get solvent pop? Because I know a lot of you guys have had issues with solvent pop. Now, this Kapci gloss that I'm using here is got a very high thinners content. It's 2 to 1 with the gloss to hardener, and then it's 30% thinner. Now, that doesn't over reduce it, it just thins it down to a nice consistency, because their gloss is a very thick product, so it needs that 30% thinner. But when you're going to be going like this, where you're putting 2 real wet heavy coats on, I've left this around about 10 to 15 minutes between the first and second coat of gloss. Now, once I've done the second coat of gloss, I'm going to leave these a good 20 minutes. Now, the reason for leaving this 20 minutes, and it's still well within the window of adhesion and everything, so we don't have to worry about a mechanical bond with the clear going over the top. But what I want to make sure that I do is not trap all that solvent in there, so that when I put the clear on and I put one really nice wet coat of clear over the top to seal these up and give it that added protection and the added polishability, that I'm not trapping the excess solvents in the paint. So when I do come to bake it, or if I leave it overnight, I'm not going to come in the next morning and these will not be covered in solvent pop, because I'm not trapping everything in there. I'm giving it that 20 minutes after that last coat before I clear it, to make sure that everything dries out as much as possible before I go ahead shooting the clear on top. Also, I'll probably leave this maybe 20-25 minutes before bake, or I'll leave it overnight to air dry. What I ended up doing with these, because it was late in the afternoon that I did these, is I gave it around about 20-25 minutes. I put them on a low bake at about 40 degrees for about half an hour, and then these will get left over the weekend, so it's not going to be an issue. Because today I've not been in the shop, I've been elsewhere painting for somebody else, so these could sit in the booth while I wasn't there and it wouldn't be an issue. So if you're doing something like this, you know, don't rush it, take your time, spread those flash off times out a lot more, and you shouldn't have any issues. Now, clear coat wise, I'm using the Kapci 6030 clear. I'm using the same hardeners and the same thinners in both the gloss and the clear, to make sure that all the speeds are matched, so we're not mismatching speeds or mismatching hardeners, or using a slow thinner in one and a fast thinner in another. We want to keep everything the same, again, to try and reduce any risk of solvent pop, etc. Now, a few of you guys have said that you've tried some of these products and you have had issues with them, solvent popping. You're only going to get issues with solvent pop on stuff if you're overloading it and you're doing it too soon. So flash off times are key. The drying times between coats are massively important. I was speaking to someone last week who was trying some MIPA CC12, got horrendous solvent pop in it, and I said to him he was adding a touch of thinners to it, and I know from the CC9 you don't add thinners to it, and the flash off time between the coats and before bake wasn't long enough. As soon as he tweaked that, no issues. So do check the sheets, you know, and if on your first job you get a little bit of solvent pop, just extend your flash off times a tiny little bit. Take a little bit of thinners out. You know, there's these small little variables that can make a massive difference to the off the gun baked finish, or the off the gun, you know, overnight cured finish for you guys that don't have a bake. These little odds and ends and little tweaks can make a huge difference to the final job that you're doing. Also, a guy was asking me the other week, he's got the same sort of booth that I have, a back draft one. So the air comes in at the front where the doors are, through the ceiling, and it gets extracted through the rear. So the way that I paint in this booth is I start painting at the filter end. So the bumper is now wet and has a wet surface, and then I'll move to the middle and then to the back, which means that the overspray that I'm creating in the middle here is landing on a wet bumper a little bit further back. Now, if that bumper hadn't had its first coat of clear, then it'd be landing on that bumper as very dry, rough overspray, and obviously that would cause a lot of issues and probably basically look like you've got a lot of dirt in the one that's closest to the filters. So I always start from my extraction and work my way away from the extraction to the furthest point away. So I'm just giving these one really heavy coat of the Kapci 6030. It's 2-to-1. There is no thinner or reducer in this. It's just straight clear and hardener. I'm just putting one real nice wet coat on there to glass everything up, give it that protection, and give me something that I can use to polish this job a little bit easier once this is cured over the weekend. And that simply is it. And like I say, with adding that flex additive in to all 4 stages, so the primer, the 2 coats of gloss, and also the clear, that then gives me the flexibility on these once these are polished, that when we're bolting them on the car, and these things are really flexible, so nothing's going to get damaged, there's going to be no paint cracks or anything like that, and for the customer it will give a little bit more of a lifetime on the car and the paint job as well. So that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.